Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another one of Chris's Cwcisms, a more commonly used term known as the friend zone. And Chris attempts to explain the friend zone from a woman's perspective. Oh boy. Because Chris, going to Chris and asking for his perspective from other people's it's just like banging your head against a brick wall. A lot of times, especially if the friend in question is opposite of gender, 18 or older, they may have sex on the brain. And when that person hears from you that you just want to be friends, or in the other term, put into the friend zone, that person will feel like they failed at getting sex they wanted, or ever will from you. Right, so, Chris seems to think that if a woman just turns a man down, then that means that the only thing they could possibly want is sex. Chris, I know nobody has ever told you this before because you get all of your information from Family Guy or from some other secondary source because you have no originality in your head whatsoever. But people think more, have got other things to think about than just sex. I'm just putting that out there because I know you've never thought about this before. Anyway, let's get started. I love this one, by the way. Friend Zone 1, Sonic the Hedgehog. That's funny. You know, it's been isn't it like the 20-year anniversary of Sonic the Hedgehog as well? I think it is. Friend zone is a term that refers to a relationship in which one person desires a romance, but the other is interested in friendship only. Chris has rarely been able to even form a casual relationship with a woman, and generally just harasses the ones who react to him with something other than hostility. Nevertheless, his single-minded focus on going all the way and getting laid has led him to view the concept of the friend zone with contempt. Friendship, in Chris's mind, is merely an excuse a woman may use to avoid him getting the china he deserves. You know, Chris, I have female friends, but it doesn't mean I want to, have sex with them. Besides, most of my friends are either married, in relationships, or simply not interested, who want to live their life. I mean, I'm more than happy with living my life platonically, because I've completely given up the idea, even at 23, that I'm ever going to get a girlfriend or any relationship ever again. So the feeling is somewhat neutral. It's not really the same as, being asexual. It just hasn't happened because I've just got things of else. Does that technically make me asexual? That it's not so much that I don't. I'm not getting into that. This isn't really about my carnal desires or lack thereof. In my mind, I could just turn it on and off with like a light switch, and for the most part, it's off, to save electricity. The friend zone defined. Nowadays, the friend zone is a common topic in discussions of romantic relationships. From one perspective, the friend zone is where guys wind up when they spend too much time getting to know a woman without trying to make a move towards a more serious relationship. Eventually, the woman views them as just friends, or like a brother, to use one variation on the theme, rather than a potential lover. From another perspective, a woman might value her friendship with a man too much to take the risk of advancing to a more serious commitment, which could lead to an ugly breakup and the end of any sort of relationship with him. It's possible for a woman to enjoy a man's company without wanting to bed him. Exactly, this is 101 stuff. And for a man to likewise feel the same way about a woman. I know, you would have thought these things go without saying, but you know what? If you don't actually tell people, they won't ever grow to know. So, fair enough. Most people are capable of accepting this fact, even if it's a bit difficult to deal with when one has been friended by the object of one's affection. Chris, of course, has other ideas. Chris on the friend zone. Woman, gal pals, relationships, man jerks. Chris and where he is in the friend zone, somewhere over here. I'd say that's just about right. Like many other supposed... Well, actually, you know what? I would have like a separate circle up here saying, you know, incomprehensible to all society of relationships. So there will at least be somewhere for Chris to be. Like many other supposed rules related to abstract ideas, the friend zone is in fact a pretty nebulous concept. Chris, unable to think about sex, dating, and relationships except in the most rigid, inflexible terms, characterizes the friend zone as a law. A hard and fast rule that he apparently believes has been forced upon him by some unspecified authority. This is similar to his interpretation of the 3-date rule, where apparently you have to have sex by law on the 3rd date. That's Chris's theory. You know, the Fastlane pay-per-view is on tonight on WWE Network on I think it's on Peacock's new streaming service. I think I might watch that tonight. It's got nothing to do with anything else, and plus the program will be on very early in the morning, but it's on the road to WrestleMania. It's on the road to WrestleMania, so that's something. And that's only 3 weeks away as well. In Mumble Chat number 4, Clyde Cash had a brief discussion on the friend zone with Chris, brought on by Chris's assumption that Sarah Hammer was interested in him, romantically simply because they were neighbours. That's not quite how that works. Chris responded to Clyde's assessment of his friend zone status by talking about the movie Just Friends, which he also cited in a mailbag question several months later. In mailbag number 4, a correspondent asked him what law he would change if he could change a single one. His intention was probably to bait Chris into discussing the dumb laws preventing teenage girls from taking off their clothes in public. Right, sorry about that, ladies and gentlemen. It's just something I had to take care of, and we're back. Okay. Correspondent Chris responded with a tirade against the friend zone. I would remove the law of the friend zone because he calls the friend zone a law. That's interesting. Because I feel that it is just wrong to not even attempt to have anything beyond friendship, especially if the man and woman are both comfortable with each other and are close. Chris failing to understand a unquantifiable concept, and the concept of, you know, modesty and considering the other person's feelings. Later, he expanded his opinion somewhat in the common questions section of the mailbag. In his case, a correspondent quite reasonably asked, what happened to a woman's right to choose who she wants to be with? Chris responds with, nothing has happened in women's rights. The friend zone is only the lousiest excuse ever. To give to someone the woman deeply cares about and trusts so she could get out of the sex or a relationship. I do not take kindly to that excuse at this time. Chris cursing any woman who tries to get out of the sex she clearly owes him. Oh boy, Chris, you really should not have said that. That is a very, very bad thing to say. Chris's characterization of "we're just friends" as an excuse is revealing both in regards to his ideas about women and his views of himself. He cannot imagine a rational explanation for why a female friend would not want to have sex with him. Instead, he believes that women have invented excuses, like this one because for some reason they fear a sexual relationship. Or that they don't want to be with someone, or in the case of Chris, he is too physically and mentally repulsive to even consider. If he is attracted to her and wants to sleep with her, he feels that she is obligated to return his interest and help bring his degenerate fantasies to life. This is just completely fucked up, but for those who've been here the longest will probably know that this is not even worth being scared over because of just the not surprisedness of this case. In August 2017, Chris replied to a tweet by artist Vim Homeless concerning the friend zone. I can answer that. You really shouldn't, Chris. A lot of times, especially if the friend in question is opposite of gender, 18 or over, they may have sex on the brain. And when that person hears from you that you just want to be friends, or in the other term, put into the friend zone, that person will feel like they failed at getting the sex they wanted, or ever will from you. Also, that person may not fully understand or appreciate what truest friendship means. Yeah, without expecting something like sex in return in the first place. You know, if Chris actually had male friends, they might have told him this earlier, because it prevents people from getting these very sick, delusional ideas. They set themselves up for the easy disappointment, whereas beginning a new friendship without the sexual expectation, and later on if you feel like exploring more with this person, and you tell them that, they will generally feel more success, as the relationship is progressing from a more positive start point of genuine friendship. Chris cannot answer to any of this because he's never had a normal relationship that doesn't involve his perverted sexual fantasies. And going into said new friendship with low expectations. Low expectations for a friendship? The fuck does that mean, Chris? They will feel less disappointed in being just friends, as they would not have had the higher expectation, or that desire for that something in return in the first place. Just the thought of like Chris replying to someone and he comes out with this incomprehensible gibberish. This is Chris's first comment on the friend zone since coming out as a trans woman. In his comment, Chris assumes the perspective of a female without actually knowing of any opinion whatsoever, with the awareness that it is usually the female who wishes to only be friends. It is also clear that Chris is attempting to justify the female decision. I doubt that, possibly given his distaste for the male species. However, having never actually subjected anyone to the friend zone, Chris's explanation is convoluted at best, and is downright narcissistic at worst. Gal pals and the friend zone. Megan Schroeder. Chris's comments about the friend zone shed a bit more light on his relationship with Megan Schroeder, and its spectacular collapse. While Megan was happy to enjoy an ordinary platonic friendship with Chris, which most observers would agree is far more than he could ever have reasonably hoped for, he clearly couldn't get his mind around the notion of a woman who didn't mind his company, but didn't want to have sex with him. From his perspective, she was making excuses, since there's no way she could have been sincerely interested in nothing more than a good friendship. Hence his refusal to quit subjecting her to physical pressure. His assumption that only sexual inexperience prevented her from wanting to fuck him, and so on. Chris's frustration with being in the friend zone reached the point where, according to him, he had to draw shecamefforquick.jpg in order to prevent himself from doing something infinitely worse. Though, given Chris's since we all know Chris has a tendency to be considered as both light and very agile, I hardly see how anyone could have fended off Chris from doing what he called infinitely worse. The Wallflower. Even after the Megan debacle, Chris was still oblivious to the concept of friend zone whilst dealing with the Wallflower. Chris revealed in his video, Damien Ontaria, Please Don't Leave Me, I Need You, that she had been consistently telling Chris that she isn't ready for a boyfriend. He is not aware that this is a commonly used technique for rejecting people, and that he had been seen as nothing more than a friend even before the Wallflower found the quickie. Since he had to be told multiple times that she wasn't ready for a boyfriend, this implies he went past the boundaries of good taste multiple times before being told it was unappreciated. This surprised no one. Oddly, on the 31st of January 2010, my 12th birthday, long before the Wallflower fiasco occurred, Chris posted in the Sonotube forum that he had been friend-zoned and felt crestfallen about it. The most likely explanation for Chris's actions towards the Wallflower was that he was trying to follow his own amazingly bad advice, and treat the friend zone as though it were an obstacle to overcome. We all know how well that turned out. Doopy do-over. Even after both the Megan and the Wallflower debacles, Chris still showed that even years later, he still hasn't learned about this concept. He never does. While his relationship with Doopy was almost exclusively customer/merchant, Chris treated her as another gal pal, with him doing many creepy things, which includes spamming her business email, responding to multiple other tweets with a big chunk of them ending with darling, and even tagging her in a tweet for National Girlfriend Day. That is just... Even after Doopy made very clear that she was not his girlfriend, blocked him on Twitter and Patreon, and leaked a bunch of emails from Chris onto the Kiwi Farms, Chris still believes that he has a chance to get into Doopy's pants, saying that she's only temporarily on the troll side. He also made a Twitter sock puppet account to continue to follow Doopy and other female artists that also blocked him. Also, and I didn't find this out until last night, that Doopy Dooper actually is being diagnosed with bipolar disorder, and one of the things Chris would do is say that I sympathize with you just because I have autism, and that he has problems of his own. I don't think listen, unless you actually have, I like to imagine that you couldn't even begin to understand what it's like for somebody to suffer with something unless you actually have that thing yourself. For example, even though I can empathize and I sympathize very well for people who have, Down syndrome or bipolar disorder, but since I don't have those things, I cannot fully understand. I have an idea of what it must like, but I have no idea because I don't understand what it's like to live that way. And I think it's the same thing with people with autism. Although there are many, many people who try to live their lives as best they can under their circumstances. Not that Chris really cared about that, because he just wanted to make his opinion known so he can make him look like a smart mark to the world. Chris and the Friend Zone. In late November 2019, after having been subject to prolonged sexual harassment and solicitation over the internet by Jacob Sockness, who claimed that a sexual relationship would bring the dimensional merge into motion, Chris had finally made a breakthrough after witnessing Sockness attempt to turn him against him from his other orbiters. Chris formally rebuffed Sockness over Twitter, insisting that such a relationship was not necessary and banishing Sockness to the Friend Zone. Well, there you are, ladies and gentlemen. All it took was... That's the one thing we can actually thank Jacob Sockness for, is that for all the things he's tried to do, and probably dangerous things as well, Sockness was the only person out there who made Chris suddenly realize, who actually held up a mirror to Chris and realized this is what it's like when you do this to other people. So, thank you so much, Jacob Sockness. I genuinely don't think I ever would have heard myself saying that, but thank you very much, Mr. Sockness. It's a very, very strange day, and it's not even noon. And so, ladies and gentlemen, that was the Friend Zone. Basically, what you need to understand is that Chris thinks it's a woman's job to suddenly give a man everything that, Chris probably listened to the song Stand By Your Man and thought this was like a national anthem for women or something. Because nobody, and I mean nobody, is ever going to have sex with anybody if the person in question says it is your job to do so, because this is how it has to be, because you're the only person who's actually shown any interest, despite the fact that it's just being polite and just being friends. But Chris just thinks the excuse of friends is just, another stepping stone so they can just get to full-blown sexual intercourse. Just look up the stuff that he said and was implying to do to Casey, and I think we can draw a veil on that front. So with all that being said and done, I will hope to see all of you guys again in the next video. I hope you've enjoyed. Take care. Bye-bye for now.